What are some of the strangest and interesting inks that you've tried? I just watched Brian's video on Noodler's Blue Nose Bear and want to know if there are any other, any other similarly weird inks. Yes, I have some weird inks that I like. It's not an exhaustive list, and it's certainly, some ones that I think are just, interesting to me. Maybe you would agree, maybe you wouldn't, but it's my list anyway. A lot of them are Noodlers. I'm just going to give you a heads up. Noodlers tends to push the envelope and make a lot of weird inks, so my list is a little bit Noodlers heavy, but I'll just kind of talk through each one and why I think it's kind of interesting. I think the first one on my list is Noodler's Blue Ghost. It's an invisible ink, and it's pretty dang invisible. In fact, I've gotten a couple of handwritten letters recently where they're written completely in Blue Ghost, and my blacklight is out of commission at the moment, so I can't even read the letter. So I need to get another blacklight. But anyway, it's really kind of interesting. You can only see it under blacklight, especially if you're writing on an off-white paper. There's just not a prayer that you're going to see. It's pretty cool, and it's bulletproof too, so it's water resistant and all that kind of stuff. Noodler's General of the Armies. It's kind of a little shifty, shady color of like a bluish green kind of ink. It has some neat halo properties. It does some really interesting things when you watercolor wash it. I know that ink has been fascinating some people recently. Noodler's Rome Burning is a really kind of a weird, fascinating ink. It goes on gold, but then when you wash it with water, it turns purple. So I've never seen an ink with that drastic of a color change when you wash it with color. So pretty fascinating. Good job, Nathan, on doing that one. And the story behind it is it's based on Nero from the Roman era, and it's very interesting kind of backstory as to why he did it. It's rather gruesome, so I'm not going to share it here, but there is a story to it. Noodlers also has an ink called Blackerase or Bluerase. It's literally like a whiteboard ink. It's like an erasable marker ink. And what's interesting about that is he had created that years ago, probably 7 years ago almost. And he created that and brought it to the New England Pen Show. It wasn't really a hit, so he was going to discontinue it, but we were getting so many people asking us for it. We asked him if he would make it, and so he was making it. We had it as an exclusive for a while. I don't know that it's an exclusive for us anymore, but so you may see it around out there, but we had it for quite some time, so kind of an interesting take on ink. Doesn't work particularly great on paper, but it's the only ink that'll work on a whiteboard. And then Noodler's Apache Sunset, of course. I love that. It's just a high shading ink that shifts color between like a red, kind of yellow, to an orange, deep kind of orange red. Very fascinating. Changes colors a lot. Very cool. Noodler's Baystate Blue. Of course, that gets a lot of attention on Fountain Pen Network and other various places. But hey. It is what it is. It's a very bright electric blue, kind of notorious for how you clean it out of your pens. It's a bit of a challenge to clean. It cleans with bleach, but it's still a pain to kind of clean, so it's best to dedicate a pen to it, especially an inexpensive pen. And then Noodler's Te-Cheng is really interesting too. I promise that's my last Noodler's one. But that one's really interesting because not only is the ink property kind of interesting, it's like a dusty purple that's permanent, but also just the history behind it. It was based off of the first purple ink that was ever made. So Nathan actually worked with, and the ink is named after the gentleman he worked with, to kind of recreate this vintage ink from, I think, the 7th century or something like that. I need to brush up on my my history lessons here, but he developed that a number of years ago, and it's a pretty cool ink. Another one I think is really fascinating is Rohrer and Klingner Alt-Goldgrün. I don't talk about this ink a lot, but it's like an olive green, which is kind of like, that's a kind of an interesting quirky color, but it shades really intensely. And I just really like that one a lot. So it's not so much strange, it's just a bit of an offbeat color for what I typically go for, but I find it very appealing, especially because of the shading properties. Another one is one of my favorite inks of all time, Herbin Emerald of Chivor. Of course, you could basically lump any of the shimmering kind of inks into this category of just really interesting because they have glittering properties and different kind of colors that can go in there. But particularly Emerald of Chivor, not only just for the glitter effect that you have with the gold shimmer in there, but really for the ink itself too. It's kind of a teal that can really have a good red sheen to it, especially when you put it on the right type of paper and you put it down pretty heavy. I love that ink a lot, and I really think it's kind of very interesting. And then last one that I have for the list is kind of a whole line of inks, but the Platinum Classic inks. It's an iron gall ink, but it's really more of like a old school kind of iron gall flavor. So it's not as much like the Rohrer and Klingner, Salix, or Scabiosa. Those are pretty tame, but the Platinum ones, literally you put them on, not only do they have some decent colors, but you put them on and it's like within like hours or maybe even a couple of days, it'll like turn black. I mean, that's really kind of the tradition. That's why it's, you know, that's where the term blue black came from, was the tradition of iron galls was like a blue and then it would turn black, and the term blue black came about. And it does that with all the different colors. It has like a vibrant pink or like a yellow or something like that, but then it'll turn black relatively quickly because it oxidizes on the paper. So those are pretty fascinating, pretty interesting to play with. So nice little list there. There's a lot of other cool ones. If you have some that you can have on here, that's not going to be my question of the week this week, but if you wanted to include something in the comments about other inks that you think are particularly strange or interesting, I'm sure everybody else would love to read it and see it.